Safety is an incredibly important factor when deciding and searching for a new place to live. Let's dive in to the 7 safest cities in the Denver metro area to call home. Welcome back to the Mile High Living channel. I'm your host, Mitch Mahaffey. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into the video, I do have to give you guys a disclaimer. As a licensed realtor in the state of Colorado, I am not allowed to offer my opinion on what may be a safe city or a safe part of town to live in, or what a good area, a good part of town to live in is. So 100% of the information that we cover today does come from websites that are easily accessible to you watching this video. Basically, I just hit Control-C, Control-V when doing my research. Now, I did spend a solid hour and a half, 2 hours doing research across as many of the websites that I could find that do track this information for us. And the 7 cities that we cover in today's video did appear on every single one of these websites for the Denver metro area. Now, a lot of these websites, of course, cover the entire state, but since myself and my team here focus on buying and selling homes in the Denver metro area, that is what we're going to be discussing today. So we'll go over the name of the city. Obviously, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you where it's at in relation to Denver, a little bit about the city, and then, of course, we will cover the average home cost and the cost of living. Now, diving straight into number 1, and the last small piece, these are in no particular order. We're not working from safest to least safest or vice versa. We're just gonna talk about some of these cities. So, first city we're going to be discussing today is Cherry Hills Village. Now, this is a tiny city located south of Denver. It is a very easy drive. You're only about 22 minutes from downtown to Cherry Hills Village, and this just so happens to be one of, if not the most affluent neighborhoods and cities in the Denver metro area. If you find yourself purchasing a home in Cherry Hills Village, you may find that your next door neighbor plays for the Denver Broncos or owns a law firm. This is where some of the most successful and, again, wealthiest people in Colorado, in the Denver metro area, call home. Now, the average home price here, with that in mind, this is also the most expensive city on the list today. The average home price comes in at $4,050,950, and the cost of living coming in at $123.7. For many of you watching this video, that may be unobtainable or just a very nice dream and great neighborhoods to drive through and just ooh and ah at the big houses. But again, because I'm not allowed to offer my opinion or alter the state in any way, Cherry Hills Village is number 1 on today's list. Now, let's just keep working through these together. All right, now the second city on our list that we're going to be covering today is Columbine Valley, Colorado. Now, Columbine Valley is, again, another very small city that you may or may not have heard of. And in fact, when you're there, it's really kind of hard to discern between it and some of the surrounding cities like Littleton. Now, excuse me, oh my gosh. Columbine Valley sits 25 minutes southwest of Denver, Colorado, and has some absolutely breathtaking views of the Front Range and the foothills. Now, from here, you are very close to Chatfield State Park, which of course is named after Chatfield Reservoir, or vice versa. Not sure how they came up with the names there, but Chatfield Reservoir is an incredibly popular lake for people to go boating, kayaking, canoeing, fishing, and when it gets cold enough, so far this year it hasn't, ice fishing as well. It's a huge state park, great way to spend some time outdoors. Again, super close to Denver still, 25 minutes southwest, but in the general vicinity, of course, there's a lot of new development as Colorado has grown. Before the city itself, there's not a lot of data. And in fact, when I went to the MLS to pull average home costs here in Columbine Valley, the most recent data pool. So the last time that there was enough transactions in the city for the MLS to be able to calculate the average was back in 2021. So do with that what you will. The average home cost from then, from most recent data that I could get my hand on, was $1.3 million, and the average cost of living coming in at $123.7. And I don't know if we mentioned this already, but for those of you that are new here on the channel, I like to use the bestplaces.net cost of living scale because it's on a scale of 100. Anything above 100 is higher than the national average. Anything below that is less than the national average. Colorado tends to rank a little bit high just because of housing costs when it comes to everything else. Gas, utilities, groceries, healthcare. Colorado tends to come in at a very healthy numbers below that 100. So 1.3 million in 2021. That tells me that it's an incredibly hot market, despite the fact that there's not a lot of home sales there. Seeing data that old, being the most recent data, tells me when a home gets listed for sale there, it gets scooped up blindingly fast, and it's incredibly in-demand part of Colorado to be in. Again, not a lot going on in the city itself, but the surrounding area does have tons and tons and tons of new construction and new developments going on. All right, so for the third city on our list today, we are heading 35 minutes north of Denver to a small town called Erie, Colorado. Now, this city is the only city on the list that is north of Denver. Everything else that we have discussed so far and are going to be discussing together is on the south side of town. Do want to, point that out. Now, the city of Erie has grown like crazy over the past 5 to 7 years, but the city has managed to maintain some of that small town charm. The new parts of Erie and the older parts of Erie do blend together quite seamlessly. Now, because of its location, Erie does straddle both Boulder County and Weld County, and that's a very important piece of information to know because that can determine how much your property taxes are and what your cost of living is there. And if you've watched some of the other videos on the channel, I'll let you take a guess at which part of Erie is cheaper than the other. Now, the average home cost in Erie, Colorado comes in at $762,614, and the cost of living comes in by and far the lowest on today's list at $113.4, meaning it's coming in even below the Colorado average of $120.5. Now, the city of Erie, like I said, has been growing like crazy and has tons of amazing amenities within the city itself. And you also have, again, some breathtaking views of the Colorado Front Range. You also have very easy access to get outdoors to enjoy all that Colorado has to offer. All right, now for the fourth city on our list today, we are heading back south to Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Now, Highlands Ranch does sit about 30 to 35 minutes directly south of Denver, but because of how the roads have been built, you do have to go kind of out and around to get there. Now, what's unique about Highlands Ranch that we can't say about any of these other cities is that it started as a massive housing development that grew so massive it turned into its own municipality and its own city here in Colorado. Now, niche.com did conduct a survey of residents that live there, and the result was a resounding fact that, quote, Highlands Ranch is the best city in Colorado to raise a family per the surveyed residents. So for those of you with little ones, or those of you that have plans to have little ones, Highlands Ranch is a city that I would seriously recommend you look into when buying a home or moving to Colorado. Again, when it does come time to do that, numbers on the screen, give us a call or text. We'll be happy to help. Now, the average cost of a home in Highlands Ranch comes in at $774,389, and the cost of living coming in a little high at $143.6. Now, the cost of living, of course, does survey everything: housing, healthcare, transportation, groceries, utilities, etc. So keep that in mind. Tons of great options when it comes to where to work, where to send the kids to school, what to do to get out and enjoy your weekends, your evenings, and a very, very desirable part of Colorado to be in. Now, heading further south gets us to the next city on our list, and that city is Castle Rock, Colorado. Now, Castle Rock is uniquely positioned geographically to where you are 40 minutes south of Denver and 40 minutes north of Colorado Springs, meaning you can go either direction for work and recreation depending on where you want to go, where you want to be at. And in fact, a lot of the residents there do that. It's having the freedom and the flexibility to go either direction to do anything is pretty nice that none of the other cities on this list offer. Everything else is pretty centrally located around Denver. Now, a lot of people that don't work remote do have to commute to either Denver, the Tech Center, or Colorado Springs, simply because there's not a lot of businesses in Castle Rock, a lot of like corporate entities in Castle Rock, because the majority of the city is zoned residential. Now, Castle Rock does sit in Douglas County, and it is the county seat, which means your government and public school HQs are all going to be in the city itself. Now, again, per online information that is publicly accessible, Douglas County and Castle Rock as a whole do tend to politically lean more right than the majority of the cities in Colorado do. And here's what's interesting about the city as well. Again, from niche.com and other publicly available websites, quote, crime statistics here are 49% lower than the Colorado average, making Castle Rock one of the safest cities to live in the Denver metro area, end quote. Now, that's a very, very interesting quote, an interesting piece of information to read, because it has nothing to do with the size of the city. Castle Rock is sitting at just over 75,000 residents. It's not the smallest city on this list, but it may arguably be the safest one that we have discussed per publicly available information. Now, with the way Castle Rock is growing and all of the new development in new construction neighborhoods and people moving and flocking to the area, I wouldn't be shocked if Castle Rock hits 100,000 residents in the next 3 or 4 years, which is quite a lot of growth very quickly. Now, as of right now, the average cost for a single-family residence in Castle Rock is $785,142, and the cost of living coming in, again, a little bit high at $143.6. Now, last little bit about Castle Rock before we move on. Castle Rock is the southernmost city on the border of the Denver metro area. Once you leave Castle Rock, you start getting into southern Colorado, and again, it's really close to Colorado Springs. So keep that in mind if you do need to be up north in the metro area or would prefer to be closer to Denver. Castle Rock's probably not a good choice for that, but if you don't and love the area that is Castle Rock, that so many of us that live here do, Castle Rock would be a great choice. All right, now the sixth city on our list today is Littleton, Colorado. Now, Littleton sits 25 minutes southwest, and we kind of already touched on this general area when we discussed Columbine Valley, but Littleton is the biggest city in that kind of pocket of the metro area. 25 minutes southwest, again, of downtown Denver, with some breathtaking views of the mountains in the Front Range. And as we mentioned before, super close proximity, I should say, to Chatfield State Park, meaning outdoor activities, boating, hiking, horseback riding, all of that are going to practically be in your backyard. And on top of that, the city of Littleton also does maintain a ton of hard and soft trails for walking, biking, hiking, etc. Now, it's important when you are in Littleton to make sure you are cognizant of what county you're in, because again, that affects your property tax, sales tax, and a bunch of other different things. The city of Littleton straddles Arapahoe, Douglas, and Jefferson counties. So 3 different counties in the city of Littleton that of course all impact your mortgage payment. Now, the average home cost in Littleton does come in at $712,105, and the cost of living sitting at $123.7. Overall, Littleton is an incredibly in-demand part of Colorado to be in, and I have shown and sold my fair share of homes in the area because it's absolutely beautiful with tons of reasons for people to move there. All right, now last but certainly not least, we have Centennial, Colorado. Now, Centennial is 20 to 30 minutes southeast of downtown Denver, depending on the way that you take to get there. There's multiple ways to get from Denver to Centennial, and traffic is a huge factor that will influence the direction that you take. Now, Centennial is home to just over 108,000 people, making it the 11th most populated city in the state, and the entirety of Centennial is located in Arapahoe County, so don't need to worry so much about where your new house lies for tax purposes. Now, with Centennial, you do have very easy access to Cherry Creek State Park, and the city it borders to the north and northeast is Aurora, the 3rd largest city in the state. Now, again, from niche.com, much like Castle Rock, the residents of Centennial do tend to lean a little bit more right politically than they do some of the other cities. Now, Centennial as a whole does have a very suburban feel. There are some cities on this list where you can tell where the commercial parts were developed and were planned, and where the houses were developed and planned. Centennial as a whole just kind of feels like one big neighborhood with a few shops sprinkled in here and there. So if that's the vibe you're looking for, Centennial's a great spot to do so. Now, the average cost of a home in Centennial, Colorado is $694,783, and the cost of living coming in at $123.7 on that scale that we have discussed. Now, of course, this was just a very high level video about some of the safest cities in the Denver metro area, and as you continue to do research on parts of Colorado to live in, I highly recommend you keep doing more research on some of the websites that we mentioned today, because just because a city's not on this list doesn't mean it's not a safe place to live. And again, reiterating that disclaimer from the start of the video, I didn't make this list up myself. None of the information that was provided was my opinion. This is all publicly accessible information from third-party sources. And on the topic of doing research, as you are doing more research about the Denver metro area, we've got more videos popping up on the screen right now to make that as easy as possible for you. Once again, this is the Mile High Living channel. I'm your host, Mitch Mahaffey, and I'll see you guys in the next one.